I've been researching Japanese folklore for years, but nothing prepared me for this story. Welcome to Japan, the Dark Side. I'm here to share the tales that reveal the shadows behind Japan's beautiful facade, the stories that are whispered about, but rarely told. And today's story, this one made me understand why some legends refuse to die. I came across this case while researching historical records from the Edo period, and honestly, it gave me chills. We're talking about a betrayal so calculated, so brutal, that it created what many consider to be Japan's most vengeful spirit. This happened almost 200 years ago, but here's what really got my attention. People in Japan are still afraid of this story. To this day, grown adults won't even say this woman's name out loud in certain places. Theater companies perform elaborate rituals just to tell her story safely. And after you hear what I'm about to share with you, you're going to understand exactly why. If you're interested in exploring the darker side of Japanese culture and history, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because we'll be diving deep into stories like this one. Stories that most people will never hear. All right, let's get into today's story. The setup. So this takes place in Japan, in what used to be called Edo, that's Tokyo today, and we're talking about the 1800s. And there's this guy named Ieamon. Now, Ieamon was what they called a ronin, which basically means he was a samurai who didn't have a master anymore. Think of it like being a freelance warrior, except back then, that usually meant you'd screwed up somehow and nobody wanted to hire you. But Ieamon, he's married to this woman named Oiwa. And from everything I read, Oiwa was like, she was the whole package, you know. Beautiful, kind, loyal, like the kind of person who would stick by you even when things got really bad. And things were bad for them. They were broke, living in basically the slums, just trying to get by. Now here's where it gets interesting. Ieamon starts getting invited to this wealthy family's house, and this family, they've got a daughter named Ume. She's young, she's gorgeous, and most importantly, her family's loaded. And I'm reading this thinking, okay, I see where this is going. But what happened next? I wasn't prepared for how dark this was gonna get. The betrayal. So Ieamon starts having these meetings with Ume's family, right? And they're basically like, hey, we like you. You should marry our daughter. But there's just one tiny problem. Ieamon's already married to Oiwa. Now, a normal person would say, sorry, I'm taken. But Ieamon, he starts thinking about all that money, all that status, and he looks at his wife Oiwa, this woman who's been nothing but devoted to him, and he makes a decision that's so cold, so calculated, that it still makes my skin crawl. He decides he's gonna get rid of her, but not quickly, not mercifully. He starts poisoning her. But get this, he doesn't just slip something in her food, that would be too obvious. Instead, he gets this special face cream, right? And he has it delivered to Oiwa anonymously, like it's some kind of gift from a secret admirer or something. Oiwa's excited about it. She thinks maybe things are looking up for them, so she starts using this cream every single day. And slowly, and I mean slowly, it starts destroying her face. Her hair begins falling out in chunks. Her skin starts blistering and peeling. One of her eyes begins to droop and swell. The poison literally melts half her face until she's unrecognizable. And the whole time, Ieamon's right there next to her, playing the concerned husband. Oh, honey, you must be stressed. Maybe you're just getting sick. Don't worry, it'll pass. Can you imagine? This woman is literally watching herself deteriorate in the mirror every day, and the person who's supposed to love and protect her is the one doing it to her. The horror. So this goes on for weeks, maybe months, and Oiwa, she's getting worse and worse. Finally, she's so sick she can barely get out of bed. But she still trusts her husband. She still believes he loves her. Until one day, she asks for a mirror. Now, some versions of this story say she wanted to see why their baby started crying whenever it looked at her. Other versions say she just wanted to try to make herself look presentable for Ieamon. But either way, when she looked in that mirror, she saw what she'd become. Half her face was completely destroyed. One eye was hanging down, swollen and grotesque. Her skin was melted and scarred beyond recognition, and according to the legend, she screamed. Not just like a startled scream, like a scream that came from somewhere so deep, so full of horror and betrayal, that people in neighboring houses heard it and got chills. Because she realized what had happened to her. She realized what her husband had done. Now, at this point, word starts getting around about Oiwa's condition. And Umi's family starts asking questions. They're like, "Hey, Amon, what's this we're hearing about your wife?" And Amon panics, because his whole plan is falling apart. But instead of coming clean, he decides to go even darker. He tells Oiwa that he's taking her and their baby on a trip to get medical help. But what he actually does is lead her to a secluded area by the river. And there, he ties her to a wooden door, crucifies her essentially, and throws her and their baby into the water to drown. But here's the thing that makes this even more horrifying. Some versions say Oiwa was still alive when she hit the water, that she spent her final moments watching her baby drown while she was helpless to save them. That's how Oiwa died, betrayed, disfigured, crucified, and drowned by the man who promised to love and protect her. The haunting begins. So Eamon gets what he wanted, right? He marries Umi, his financial problems disappear, he's living the good life. New house, nice clothes, respect in the community. The wedding night arrives and Eamon thinks he's finally free. He's gotten away with the perfect crime. But then, something happens that no one expected. As Eamon and Ume are celebrating their marriage, Ume excuses herself to go fix her hair. She goes to her dressing room, sits down at her vanity, and looks into the mirror to adjust her wedding makeup. But instead of seeing her own beautiful face staring back at her, she sees Oiwa, the ruined, melted face of Oiwa, with that drooping eye and scarred flesh, staring back at her with pure hatred. Ume screams and stumbles backward, but when Eamon rushes in to see what's wrong, Ume won't stop screaming. She keeps pointing at the mirror, but now it just shows her own reflection. For the next several days, this keeps happening. Ume sees Oiwa everywhere, in mirrors, in windows, in still water. And each time, the apparition looks more angry, more vengeful. Finally, Ume can't take it anymore. In a moment of complete terror and madness, she grabs Eamon's sword. But here's where it gets really disturbing. Eamon walks in just as Ume is holding the blade, and in his panic, thinking she's going to attack him, he grabs the sword and, well, let's just say Ume's head ended up separated from her body. Whether it was an accident in the struggle, or whether Eamon was so paranoid he killed her on purpose, we'll never know. But Ume was dead, and that's when Eamon realized that marrying for money had cost him everything, because the hauntings were just getting started. The hauntings get worse. Servants start quitting. Some of them just disappear entirely. People around Eamon start having accidents, fatal accidents. And Eamon, he's losing his mind. He's attacking shadows, screaming at empty rooms. Finally, he packs up and flees to the mountains, thinking maybe he can escape her there. He can't. They find him a year later, dead in a mountain shrine. And here's the thing that really got to me when I read this. His body was completely untouched, no injuries, no signs of violence, but his face was frozen in this expression of absolute terror. Like whatever he saw in his final moments was so horrifying that it killed him from fear alone. The modern horror. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's a creepy ghost story from old Japan, so what? But here's where it gets really interesting. This story became famous, right? They turned it into plays, movies, books. But something weird started happening to people who tried to perform it. Actors playing Oiwa would get injured during rehearsals, stage lights would fall, entire theaters would burn down before opening night. This happened over and over again, for decades, and it got so bad that theater companies started doing something that they still do today. Before anyone performs this story, the entire cast and crew has to travel to Oiwa's grave in Tokyo and ask for her permission. They leave flowers. They say prayers. They literally apologize to a woman who died 200 years ago. I looked this up, and it sounds true. Modern actors, people who don't necessarily believe in ghosts, they still do this ritual, because nobody wants to take the chance. There was this famous Japanese director, Takashi Miike, who made a movie based on this story, and he admitted in interviews that weird accidents kept happening on set until they went to Oiwa's shrine and paid their respects. The truth. So what's really going on here? Is Oiwa's spirit actually still out there, making sure people remember what was done to her? I don't know. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe it's the power of suggestion. But I'll tell you what I think after researching this story. I think what makes Oiwa so terrifying isn't just that she was murdered. It's how she was murdered. The calculation behind it. The betrayal. The fact that the person who was supposed to protect her was the one who destroyed her, and maybe, just maybe, that kind of injustice leaves a mark on the world that doesn't just fade away. Because even today, if you go to the Yotsuya district in Tokyo at night, locals will tell you to be careful. They'll tell you that sometimes people see a woman carrying a lantern, her face hidden in shadow. And if you're unlucky enough to see that face, well, let's just say you probably don't want to. That's gonna do it for today's story. If this freaked you out as much as it freaked me out, let me know in the comments. And if you have other stories from Japan or anywhere else that you think I should cover, drop those in the comments too. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.